as you interlock the two.
Now stretch them quite as...
Soccer and the...
Quiet, please. In exactly 15 seconds, we'll be on the air.
I felt like a reptile. Like a reptile. I felt like a reptile.
You good?
Yeah.
Are we rolling?
Yep.
Hello and welcome to Full Reptile Radio, episode 8, sort of.
Yeah, there was an episode 8.
Yeah, but not on our channel.
No.
So if you tuned in last week, you'd have realised that we weren't here. We were on the official Full Reptile channel to fill in for Dan and V doing the picks for UFC London.
Yep.
So we did call that 8, but then the OCD inside of mine and Jamie's brain was going a bit mental and we couldn't just go 7, 9 because it looked a bit ropey. So we'll call it Full Reptile Radio episode 8.
Yeah. This is number 8. We'll keep in line with the current videos on the channel.
Yeah. Brought to you again, as always, by New Shirt. They've just put a new design up, which was pretty much celebrating Leon's, his initial devastation of Usman.
His first fight, yeah, for sure.
But
second fight with Usman.
Second fight with Usman and his first defence, his actual capturing the title.
Yeah.
Before he then defended his title, which is obviously what we're going to talk about in a minute. So, so we've got the New Shirt sponsors, so thanks to those guys. And obviously the new designs are out, so check them out, let us know what you think. But other than that, dude, UFC London.
Yeah, man, it was a great event. I mean, unfortunately, the day before, because I was actually meant to be going, I had one of Veronica's tickets.
Yeah.
And yeah, the day before, I found out that I got COVID. So,
dude,
I was
much more gutted for you.
The thing is, like, there was a point where I was like, maybe I could just not tell anyone.
Yeah, just go in 2 masks.
But I couldn't do that. With obviously Dan at PFL this weekend, and then just, being around friends and, they've got families and stuff, you can't really be just coughing and spreading it. So
I think if you've got a conscience when it comes to that sort of stuff, because obviously when it was rife, the amount of conversations I was having with people was like, shh, it's all right. I'm like, dude, it's not all right. Like,
it's not.
When people say, take care of the pennies, they'll look after the pounds. It's similar to people being ill and it being a pandemic, because if more people were more conscious about them being a 1 statistic, it would avoid the 1,000 statistic and then the millions. Do you know what I mean? So you did the right thing, man. Obviously I was meant to be there, or I got a ticket, but it was Mother's Day the next day. And unfortunately, having an 11-year-old and a 14-year-old, they're kind of oblivious. Don't get me wrong, they obviously love their mum, they think the world of her, but it's not like it's their priority. So I couldn't really see myself finishing UFC London at whatever time, driving home. I get home like 4 a.m. So, I mean, going to bed at midnight, I'm not any use to anyone till like 2 o'clock the next day. So going to bed at 4 or 5, it would have just been a write-off. So unfortunately, I had to make the call, and it made it more interesting because obviously both my kids adore Veronica. They adore everything about her, and obviously knowing that she fights, since they've known her, they've never really watched her fight because obviously she had a little bit of time off.
Same.
Yeah. So I was at my dad's because obviously with the Mother's Day thing, I don't know if anyone else does this, but because I've got stays and the kids, like we make Mother's Day Sunday about our little group. So we try and like catch up with the other mums on the Saturday, just to obviously drop off presents and see them for a little bit. And we were sat at my dad's, and the fight started, and I'm just sat there, and my eldest couldn't sit still. I could see that uncomfortableness in her. And I've had it, like when I watched Dan in Nottingham, when I used to watch Stefan, when you know someone in the fight game and you watch that cage door shut and you know the potential of whatever could happen, those 15 minutes or 20 minutes with all the breaks and all the bits are the most anxiety-ridden, awful fucking moments. But at the same time, you can't take your eyes off it. And for me to see that through my daughter was even more insane, because I'm obviously watching V and knowing she's been training hard and she's looking good and all the rest of it. Moo couldn't sit still. She's like, is it still going? What's happening? And just on edge.
Yeah, I mean, I watched it from here because I bought the box office. Which
Nice.
Had to pay for it in the end. But yeah, I watched it from here, and I was the same. I couldn't sit still and watch it. Yeah, 'cause like you said, because when you know someone. And yeah, you're just giving them your whole support, I guess, as well. And it was very like tense, but she looked great. I mean, like after the first round, it was just like, yes, go on, throughout the whole fight, she looked great.
It was the sub defenses, the head kick. Both of us said head kick.
Yeah, I was scared at one point when I thought her arm was going to get caught though.
Mate.
But toughness and just know what to do in that situation.
And I'll tell you what was really, really good, and it was a bit of a weird one, but it was hearing Dan's voice louder than any of the commentators. For every UFC London he's been there, he's been involved, he's been a part of it, but to still be a louder voice than anyone else was fucking brilliant, because at one point he was like, get out, and she just fucking stood up and like muscled out, and it was brilliant. But to hear him in the corner and obviously see him and Jimmy, it was it
was cool. And Jack Young was there as well.
Yeah.
Jack Young, Jimmy and Dan, cool corner.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, she looked great. I think got bright things ahead for sure,
mate.
Especially in the division at the minute, like the 125 division. It's all a bit since Valentina's lost the belt, and there's a lot of contenders like rising up, and yeah, it's an interesting division. So, but
it was good. I really, once it was, because obviously before that was finished, I kind of couldn't settle. I felt I was on edge, because obviously we hadn't seen Dan and V for a few days before because they'd gone down, and it's one of them where you feel quite protective of people, and you feel like obviously it's part of your tribe, and you're not within the inner circle just for that minute. You've been around the whole fight camp, and obviously you care about these people, and it felt really weird. So obviously seeing her get the W was, I kind of relaxed into the rest of the card.
Yeah.
So it was...
Yeah, I was so gutted, man, when I found out I had COVID. It was horrible.
Well, when I got your message, I got a voice message, and it was just like, I don't know if you know. I was like, what? What's this? When you said, I was like, oh, it's the worst.
Yeah, I did 4 tests just to make sure, and every one of them came back positive.
Still pregnant. Still pregnant.
It's like, no way. No. Like the first pay-per-view I would have been to that's in the UK as well. It was just, the whole occasion, it was great.
It was different as well, because obviously Anik was there, Bisping was there, and DC was there.
Yeah.
So it was a completely different lineup. Obviously you had Johnny G's doing a bit of the legwork, but... Yeah, it's strange having DC and Anik in the UK.
Well, it was good because I watched a lot of the build-up, and throughout the week it was they were kind of celebrating like MMA in the UK as well, which was cool to see. There was a lot of like legends there, and
Ian Freeman was there,
Ian
right?
Freeman.
Dude.
They did a panel show with like Bisping, Aspinall, Manua, Freeman, and Brad Pickett.
Yeah.
And that was cool to watch.
Dude, Ian Freeman, I mean, I've said this before, I'm not a big reader. I like it to come out as a film, or someone read me the book as a bedtime story. So Ian Freeman, The Machine, is the only book I've literally... That and Bartley Gorman, the Gypsy King, are the only books I've ever really read. And yeah, Ian Freeman was solid. Just a lump of muscle.
Yeah.
And he beat Frank Mir.
Yeah, they were talking about that on the show.
Bear in mind who Frank Mir was and who Frank Mir is, and they were coming to London, and it was the brawl at the Hall, because obviously Matt Hughes was fighting Carlos Newton. That was insane, and for Ian Freeman, mate, he was just an animal, and yeah, he killed him. It was an amazing fight. But to see him back up there, it was cool. He did some weird stuff. At one point, there was a TV show. It's like on Channel 5 or some shit like that, and it was World's Toughest Man. And it had Mark Weir on
Danny
there.
Dyer presented by any chance?
He was presenting it, but like the challenges were, there was a barrier that was like a metre off the ground, and you had to get a car to go underneath it. So like people were just like hitting it with a sledgehammer and smashing the doors off, and weird challenges to declare yourself as the hardest man, but he did that. And then there was celebrity wrestling, which was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. But he was the ref for that. So yeah, he definitely missed the boat as far as legendary status to the layman. But to anyone else who's been following the sport, he was the first British face. Yeah, he was solid, dude, and rock hard.
Yeah,
he was good.
Yeah, but so was he the first British UFC fighter?
I believe so.
Or was he like...
So Mark Weir...
Yeah, because Mark Weir was in... whose corner was he in at the weekend? I can't remember. But
Leroy?
when he came... Was it
Leroy?
Leroy? Maybe? Because I remember when he came on the screen, because I think they'd just shown a shot of Ian Freeman. It's like, oh, that's a legend in the in British MMA scene. And then Mark Weir was in someone's corner, and they went to him, and it's like, oh, that's another real legend.
Yeah,
and,
well, Mark Weir he had the fastest knockout in UFC history
Right.
before the ban Ludwig.
Yeah.
And he flew in, hit the guy, and then sort of backed off like this. I was like, okay, done. And he was a good fighter, and I think he fought David Loiseau either to a draw or he lost a close decision. It might not have been Loiseau, but he was, Mark Weir and Freeman. It was kind of strange because there was a documentary floating about for years of Brad Pickett, and because Brad was into Chaz and Dave and wore his trilby and came out with a paper, he had a real good gimmick. So he was Brad was about in Cage Warriors and other promotions, but then sort of moved across to WEC. And then when the UFC acquired the WEC, obviously we got Brad into the UFC, which was gold. But yeah, when you look at it, there have been a handful, but early days, because it was predominantly overseas, that unless they were making the commitment, and obviously people like Bisping and Ross Point, and they went through season 3 of The Ultimate Fighter, and then it sort of snowballed a little bit.
Yeah.
But I mean, they were the first two. I'm pretty sure it was Ian Freeman and Ian the Machine Freeman and Mark Weir, the Wizard.
Yeah, I mean, the build-up for the whole fight week was great. Like, the embeddeds were cool. It was just cool because it was in London, and like I said, they were kind of celebrating British MMA a bit. But yeah, the event obviously held up as well.
Yeah.
It was fucking great. It was actually quite nice just watching it on my own in my flat.
Without having to queue 20 minutes for
exactly,
a beer.
Yeah, you can kind of, relax in your own space. And it was great. Every fight was pretty, really good.
Yeah, well, I was impressed with us at how good, because obviously if you were part of the Picks podcast, which is normally like one of the best analysts in the world doing it, and his wife, who's equally a good analyst and obviously studies fights. For me and you to get nearly everything right, and the build up to it, we were catching a bit of shit for it. Oh yeah, you're just choosing British guys. It's like, we said that from the beginning. We said we're biased, but at the same time, a lot of them were right.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I think when that card was set up, surely I think most of the fights kind of favour the home fighter, at least anyway, with a lot of those fights I felt like that was the case. And yeah, of course we're going to be biased because it's home team.
Yeah.
But they all almost won, to be honest.
Mate,
I think it's only started differing a little bit when we got through later in the card, and we were like purposely, picking just
selecting
interesting. Yeah.
Well, we wanted to keep everyone happy, which clearly didn't work, but we were trying our hardest.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was a bit gutted for Jai, because obviously, I mean, it's the whole fence grabs and points taken and bits and the nut shots. I mean, that was the one thing I was concerned about with Leon when he won, was it would give ammo to someone like Covington, because it's not like he didn't grab the fence and crack him in the nuts and poke him in the eye. And it's like, there's a lot of nervous energy, but you never want to give that sort of ammunition to someone like that.
Yeah, but even with the point deduction, he still came to it. I mean, we'll get to that, but like, Leon looked great, I think, throughout the fight. Like, his takedown defense was
sick. Unreal, man. Yeah.
Like, he'd clearly worked that like to a T, and he just couldn't get him down.
No, but I think once obviously Jai got the draw, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then was it Leroy Duncon?
Well, that was the injury to Dusko.
And I felt for him because it looked like it was gearing up to be like a proper romper stomper.
Yeah, that was my prelims fight of the night. Well, you know, I mean, they might remake the fight. I don't know how serious Dusko's injury was, but it looked pretty bad.
Yeah.
And
but Chris,
blew his ACL or something.
He didn't seem like the limelight bothered him. Obviously, because it was UFC instead of Cage Warriors. He's unbeaten. He
is pretty chill, isn't he? He's a pretty chill guy.
Yeah, he was really chill. And like that, and then we had Jack Shaw.
Yeah, looked great.
Mate.
And just the
corner work.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah.
You literally, there's something in that family and the obsession that they have with this sport and what his dad can see, to work with a student so closely, obviously with it being your child, and to be able to see exactly and call exactly what you need it to be. And he did exactly what he was told. And mate, he looked phenomenal.
Yeah, he looked great. I think he's clearly made the right move by moving up to featherweight as well. He looked more comfortable. And he said, like, you know, it was the gas tank in the later rounds that were kind of giving him trouble. So yeah, I think Jack Shaw's going to look great in that division, and he's only going to get better as well. He's still young, and you know he's got a great camp, a great team around him, especially with his dad.
Yeah,
and he mentioned obviously at the end of the fight that he just got over cancer as well.
Which is, mate, the amount of, you imagine how that would affect you in a 9 to 5. Let alone, he's obviously still putting the work in, the time in. He's getting prepared for this whole event. His son's obviously, I know he's dropped 1, but he's still a massive prospect that he is obviously supporting 1,000,000%. And I don't mean financially, I mean physically. It's like it's their life, and so to get through that together and to still and pull off the win and get that celebration, it was it's kind of brought a tear to your eye, because it was such a wholesome thing, because he's such a solid dude as well. Obviously Paul's been working with him and Veronica from the Athlete Factory, and he can't say enough good things about him. So when you see someone that's so talented but remains so humble, it's really cool in such a, it's not such a niche sport anymore, but I always consider it to be quite niche.
Yeah.
It was nice, man. Really nice for them too.
Yeah, especially like against someone like Makwan, because he's not an easy fight by any means, and you know he's got a lot of experience under his belt. It could have been a tough fight for Jack, but I feel like he kind of made it look pretty easy.
Yeah. I mean, overall, it just seemed like it had a good energy. It was, obviously, you know, when you've seen UFC Londons with Molly and with Paddy, there seems to be a different bounce, like a different energy. And obviously, when I did the graphic for the history of the UFC of London, that they've always been kind of up and down. Do you know what I mean? Like some cards have been solid, other cards have been a bit lower, but it's always been a good showing. And obviously the Brits have got a decent set of lungs on them. But I wasn't sure how it was going to be this time, with it obviously being Usman and Leon. But it seemed to have a slightly different energy to the Molly Paddy one.
Yeah, I thought so as well. Yeah,
but it still seemed to roll pretty well. Do you know what I mean? Like the majority of the cards, I don't know if you ever do this, because even though I've done the graphics for picks and I've studied the card and I know who's coming, sometimes I'll forget a fight, and in between it'll like do the thing where they come up next. I'm like, fuck, I've forgotten Vittori was on this.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. It did feel like that. Every fight felt big. Even on the I think as well, because we were invested in it with Veronica. So like literally the first fight in the card, you're just like, yes. And I was way more animated in that fight probably than I was for the main event. Yeah. So yeah, it was just a really good card. It was a good evening, and yeah, the fights definitely delivered. And of course, like Colby was there as well, and like it seemed like because it was a pay-per-view, obviously it was a bigger event, but it kind of felt like a big American event. I don't know. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was star-studded. Yeah. And I think, the whole Colby thing got my brain twisted a little bit, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But it kind of spun me out, because there was at one point, it's when he came into the building, and there was a little bit of commotion when he came in. But like there was Tom Holland there. Have you seen where Leon's seen him?
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Literally goes over for a picture.
Yeah, I asked V if she got a photo with him, but I think they'd left the building
They already
by
missed
that
it.
point. Yeah,
Mate, he seems like a cool dude, Tom Holland. He seems like a solid guy. But for anyone who listened last week, and even my good friend Jamie, there's a lot of comments about the Gaethje fight, wasn't there? That they can't believe that I was picking Gaethje.
yeah. I mean,
I caught a lot of shit for that.
I was fully convinced that Fiziev was going to run through him, to be honest. Yeah, and he certainly surprised me.
Is it Fiziev or Fiziev?
I thought it was Fiziev.
I always thought it was Fiziev, but I don't know.
Fiziev?
Yeah, Fiziev. But mate, I've got to be honest. Obviously, I'll be talking to people in the comments, and there was a lot of people that were saying he's going to run through Gaethje. What the fuck are you talking about? You guys don't know what you're talking about. You're a pair of clowns. And I'll take all that. That's fine. That's no problem, because it's one of them. It's the fight game. You never know. And before, I was convinced, because of obviously Gaethje's, just his resume, who he's beaten and who he's fought and the experience he's got, I was convinced I'm solid in my choice. After leaving here, because you've been at some Fiziev fights, you might have a little bit more, like, you might know something I don't know. So I was thinking, fuck, maybe Jamie's right. And then when all the comments started coming through going, he's going to run through Gaethje, you're a fool. I was thinking, fuck, man, maybe I am wrong. Maybe Gaethje's just gone over the crest of the hill now, and he might just be slowing down a bit.
Yeah, I think what I underestimated was the toughness of Gaethje. And I know that sounds silly, but I think because of the way Fiziev fights and like the ferocity, like the speed and how he throws his strikes, you just think like no one can withstand that kind of thing, and a lot of people haven't been able to. And because they showed like the I think it was after the first or second round where they were both sat down on their benches, on their stool, sorry.
Bringing a bench.
And Fiziev was like bloodied and like had loads of like towels on him, and the cut man was like wiping him up, and Gaethje was just like fresh. Yeah. I was just like, damn, man, he's made of like stone. Yeah.
Stone with like a rubber coating.
Yeah.
But mate, it was the first round that I almost, if I had a bet on, that I would have been considering to change it, because the speed of Fiziev just semped. There was like at one point he threw like a 4-punch combo that missed Justin by this.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy fucking shit. But obviously that explosion comes at a price. That output comes at a price. Mm-hmm. And Justin, it's one of those fights which really nail down fundamentals, because when you look at him, when he starts pulling out the jab, the amount of work that jab created, obviously it led to the uppercuts and bits and bobs, but when you think about punching or you think about boxing, and it's normally either hooks or a little bit of a combo, a solid jab will get there 9 times out of 10 before anything else. Mm-hmm. And when he was cracking him, and it was making a difference. And obviously we know judges in MMA are fucking horrendous. Like, they are literally stood at the bar while this is happening. So you can never ever like rest your hat on it, because it's not going to happen. So the fact that Justin could obviously scar him up or bloody his face a little bit more, the damage always determines a little bit for these people when they get back from the toilet or the bar or playing Tetris or whatever they're doing. Like, they can look up and go, oh, it looks like he's lost. Do you know what I mean? And I think it was impressive, because obviously we spoke about how good Trevor Whitman is, but during a fight, for him to sort of, he's analysing the whole thing. He says, no, just do this, do that. Don't be chucking your left hand as much. And he literally listened to everything he was told, and he kind of turned it around. And I was well impressed, because he isn't quite over the hill yet.
No, and I think, well, he's mentioned that, you know, he's going to have one last run at the title, and there's talks of like him and Dustin to fight for the next title shot, which, I mean, I'm not going to turn down a Dustin Poirier and Gaethje rematch.
No. And I think the difference with it this time is Gaethje came in with a load of hype, which was warranted. And when he got here, he was touching people, and they were going to see. I'm not saying he underestimated Dustin, But I think he threw a lot at Dustin to try and get him out of there quickly, and Dustin's a tough dude.
Well, I think at that point as well in Gaethje's career, because Dan's often spoke about this, is that Gaethje was, when he fought Dustin the first time, he was that kind of a bit more reckless with in his style. And I think now he's made those adjustments. I think it would be a different fight.
Slightly more measured.
Yeah. And I think it would be, man, don't even like to call that, to be honest, but that would be an epic fight if it happens.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a perfect one. It's a perfect one because you know you're going to get a good stand-up slogfest, which is kind of sometimes what you want, because it's like with the Masvidal Burns that's coming up. I love Masvidal, and I like watching Burns, but I kind of don't want to see Masvidal getting bow-humped. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And as much as I know Masvidal's got a ground game and he's good and he's solid, but there's something about like Masvidal Till or Masvidal Usman, you know that they're going to stand and they're going to have a knock, and that's kind of what you want to see. So, yeah, Gaethje and Poirier was definitely one to make. I was super interested in that as soon as it was announced, because even if Poirier fought Conor another 10 times, I've seen it now. Do you know what I mean?
I think that's kind of the thing. Is I feel bad for those guys like Poirier and Gaethje, because obviously, you know, Oliveira was champion, then Chandler and Oliveira fought for the title, and obviously just Poirier got his shot, but Gaethje's kind of been a little bit out of the top for the past year or so. Yeah. And I think that's probably due to like a bit of inactivity, because who he fought before Fiziev? Was it Chandler?
Yes.
Yeah, so he beat Chandler, didn't he, before that?
Yeah, then he lost.
He lost. Oh, he lost to Oliveira. Of course he fought for my bad. But yeah, I feel like he hasn't really been mentioned within that kind of group of fighters. And I think by beating Fiziev, he's kind of put himself back in the
Didn't he get fight of the night? Did he get performance of the night?
I think he got a performance. Was it fight of the night? It probably was, wasn't it? Because I seen a post he put up. It was like 11 fights, 11 performance bonuses.
Yeah, mate. The highlight, his nickname couldn't be more fitting.
It was a great fight. Yeah.
So yeah, that was solid. And I didn't go back in the comments, and I didn't let people know that I was right. I just sort of quietly walked away.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I think I just underestimated his toughness to win. Yeah. And yeah, Fiziev. The thing is, though, Fiziev looked fucking awesome up until, you know, that point, and he still looked good against Gaethje. I think, you know, just experience and.
But I think it raises his stock. Because the difference is, it puts him in the top 10 category of, like, people will remember that, and that's off the back of a Gaethje fight, because once you've survived that, like, Gaethje didn't put him away, but they had a good scrap, and at least that way I think his profile's raised a little bit after the weekend.
And I think he'll be back in that position again, you know, Fiziev. I think he'll be, because he's still young, you know, he's still got time in that division to get further up. I think he'll be back there for sure.
Yeah. And then the main. Talk to me, what are you saying?
Yeah, man. I mean, I thought Leon looked great. I just feel like Usman didn't really even offer much, to be honest. I mean, there was moments, and I just think Leon controlled the whole fight. I just thought it kept him at good range. He picked him off, like he defended pretty much, you know, every takedown that he threw at him.
Do you think that's a lot from putting in the effort on the leg kicks? Do you think that slowed him down?
Yeah, because what was it? Did he throw 30?
Something like
it was. I think it was. I saw the statistic the other day. It was like their first fight, obviously, it was only 3 rounds, but he threw 3 leg kicks, and then I think in their second fight he threw 13. I think in this fight he threw 30.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think obviously that, but I think just overall, like with the leg kicks, the takedown defense, it was just a nice, comfortable way to beat Usman.
It felt like he stifled the majority of his approach, because obviously the same statistics were out that said in the first fight there was 10 minutes ground control for Usman. Now bear in mind the first fight was 3 rounds. Mm-hmm. So like 2 rounds were taken out of that being dominated. And the last fight, I think the ground control was it a few minutes?
Yeah, I think obviously second, third and fourth round he had quite a bit, yeah.
In the last one? Yeah, but it was still nowhere near what it was in the ratio.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was one of them where, because of the game plan and obviously taking out his leg and trying to hit him low, I mean, taking out his gas tank and taking out his knee, dude, those leg kicks were racking up, and the welt on the inside of his leg, that honestly, I just felt for him. But it looked like a different Usman. It looked a bit different. Obviously, he was saying all the right stuff on the build-up. I honestly, truly believe he thought he was going to beat him again because of how well he did against him the first time in the first 4 rounds. But there was something about Leon's confidence. And I don't think he needed to overly justify it. I don't think he needed to be nasty. He didn't need to go out of his way to criticise or like just be a dick. He was just cool in his own skin. And you could see that in the confidence in the walkout, that he was like, look, I got this, man.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think I gathered that from like the whole fight week. I'll go back a sec. Throughout the whole fight week, Leon just looked confident, and I think he was like, he was excited to be fighting back in the UK. He was excited to be defending it here, and he was just like super confident throughout the whole week.
He didn't seem to rise to the bait. You know, when Usman was talking about his corner, don't give this away, Rock, don't give this away, and the whole time he was doing it, he kind of, to me, I would have turned that against Usman to say, you seem a bit obsessed with that. You seem to have learnt that well. You know that word for word. You watch that a lot. You watch me knocking you out a lot. Because that was just before I landed that head kick and you went to sleep for 20 minutes. Do you remember when you went to sleep for 20 minutes? Because that was when he said that. You're right. He said, don't let him get you right. Then I knocked you out with a head kick. Do you remember? And I would have fucking rode him like a Skegness donkey. But he didn't.
Yeah.
And I think there was, obviously that's why I'm not a professional fighter, because I get knocked out. But there seemed to be a lot to be taken from that, because he was just like, do you know what? Carry on, man. Like, use all this energy to justify and prove to yourself that it's all right. But since then, I've seen that Ngannou came out and said, I know he's not trained. So there could be something in that. Obviously, I saw on Joe Rogan, and it's been well documented, that Usman's knees are fucked. He apparently has to walk on grass because of that jacked, which, look, professional fighters taking the amount of damage they take, training, let alone fighting, is insane. And then I saw that Masvidal was saying...
Yeah, I was just going to say, about actually getting over it mentally.
Yeah, and it's... How long has it been? When did Leon win?
It was like last October time, was it?
Yeah, so it's not been long, right?
Let's have a look.
I think you're right. I think it's nearer Christmas than it was nearer
Yeah,
summer.
It was definitely towards the end of last year. Oh, no, sorry, it was August.
Yeah.
Okay. But I mean, I guess...
It's not a long time though, is it? 6 months?
No, not really. I don't know. Well, it's still quite... It's half a year.
Yeah, but...
I know what you mean. It's enough time to prepare physically for a fight. Mentally, obviously, it's a different thing. And, getting knocked out on on the world stage is, can't really comprehend how that must feel.
The only thing that you find when you Google Usman and Leon, or Google them together, because obviously I was looking for graphics to do the competition.
Yeah.
Mate, it was all just him starched.
Yeah.
All of it. And there was a lot more of the fight than that. So you can tell that type of thing would affect someone mentally. So obviously for him to not be off for that long, it was it could be adding to it. But then that's what makes me wonder now, with having Colby chomping at the bit, and with Dana. Did you watch the press conference?
I watched Leon's interview, and that was about it, to be honest. Okay. I didn't really stick around for Dana. So
Dana, they asked him, who's next? He said, Colby's next. And I think 27 other people asked him who's next. And he said, Colby's still next. And they're like, yeah, but what about if Masvidal has a good showing with Burns? And he was like, Colby's next. And he wouldn't deviate in the slightest. And I didn't know, and this is just a theory, obviously Masvidal has got this court case that's ongoing with Colby, right? For smacking him in the mouth. Now bear in mind, Colby's come out and essentially threatened John Anik and said he'll kill him. You don't live far away from him. Don't be a bitch.
Colby said he'd kill John Anik?
Yeah.
Why?
I think he was he was saying something. He said something on comms, and then he was talking to him in the back, or whatever it was. I can't remember exactly what it was. I just know that Colby wasn't happy with Anik. You'll have seen it. You know what I'm talking about. So with Anik not being, well, he's not a fighter. He's a commentator. It always makes me wonder when Colby gets this, like, because he's obviously a character, he gets all angry and he's like, oh, well, if I see you, I'm going to do this. You know, well, hold on. When Masvidal saw you, you rang the police. So it's like, what the fuck is it? Is it street rules, or is it my character wants to make out I'm doing this? And it just seems a little bit...
Yeah, there was because they mentioned about it in the response, you know, because the press were asking him about the Khamzat fight, and he was saying that I never got offered it, but then in the same sentence, it was kind of like I didn't accept it. So he did get offered it, and you don't really know if he got offered it and whether he accepted it. And it's a bit like, and then I think Ariel had an interview with Khamzat, and he's just like, yeah, you did want to fight me.
Yeah, no one wants to fight him.
So it's just, I kind of veer more on the side of believing Khamzat, because I feel like he would fight shit. Anyone.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that Colby wouldn't, but if, you know, between the two, I would probably back the Khamzat.
Well, I don't know if, because obviously Masvidal's still a big draw, and Masvidal's been around for a fucking long time, really, really long. If Masvidal is caught up in court proceedings with Colby, that's not good for the UFC.
Yeah.
That's a headache, because at the minute, Masvidal's probably got a few fights left, and obviously whenever Dana puts him on a card, it's going to be a big payout. So I don't know if he's said, do me a favour, you get the next title shot, just leave this shit with Masvidal. Because no one spoke to him about Masvidal.
Can I just pause it a minute?
Of course you can.
A few moments later.
So, hold on. What were we talking about?
We were talking about the main event.
We were talking about...
Is
it a bit shady? Is it a bit shady that... Do you think Dana has said to Colby...
The next title shot?
Yeah, so he said to him, I'll give you the next title shot if you just leave this shit with Masvidal.
Right, yeah.
Like, drop the shit with Masvidal, because that makes me a shit ton of money. And realistically, you're being a bitch. But just drop that and then you get the next title shot. Because the thing is, like, surely Leon's got a bit of say. Because, I mean, look when Bisping got the title, right? And then he chose, I'm going to fight Dan Henderson. I want to get that fight back. That wasn't the next in line. But Bisping there was obviously Dana White privilege. So is that how it works? Is it that Rocky is essentially, him and Usman fought, and as much as he lost the first time to Usman, it was a decision, and Usman went on this incredible tear, unbeaten. Rocky also went on an incredible unbeaten tear. So they both did very similar things. But for him to now defend his title, and he's not got a say in who he fights next.
The thing is, though, do you really get a say in who you're fighting? Like, I don't know, like...
How did Bisping fight Dan Henderson?
Do you think Usman got a say? I mean,
I'd like to think so.
Yeah, I don't know how much they do or not, because surely whoever's the next top contender gets the fight, and who's the next top contender?
Is Colby the next one? Is he next in line?
I don't know really. But I mean, should we have a look at the rankings? Because I'm pretty sure.
Well, who is there? There's Bilal.
There's guys like Bilal,
massively up there.
Yeah.
There's Colby. There's Gilbert. There's Masvidal. I mean, the Masvidal one is that's the moneymaker because of the three-piece.
Colby beat Masvidal in Colby's last fight. So really, if you're looking at who technically does, I don't think Masvidal deserves the title shot.
But Dan Henderson didn't against Bisping. Why did Bisping get Dan Henderson?
I don't know.
Henderson was like ranked 8th or 9th at the time.
Let me get the rankings up.
Okay. It was more for me. It just sounded like he was not deviating from the Colby thing. And Colby didn't even mention Masvidal. Didn't even talk about him. No one brought it up. No one questioned him. No one asked him a question about it.
Right. So really, if you're looking at the rankings and who should technically have the next shot, it would be Colby, wouldn't it? He's number 2.
Okay.
Because Kamaru's lost it and he's tried to get it back and he's lost.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand that Colby's had two shots at it and lost it.
And he's had a lot
Usman.
of time off, hasn't he?
But then he has fought Masvidal in between that. But then I only realised the other day that Masvidal is actually ranked number 11th now in the division. He's not even in the top 10. Like, could you really warrant him a title shot? I don't know.
What about if he beats Burns?
See, yeah, this is the thing. I think that's what the topic of, like, a lot of people were asking Leon as well, was like, if Masvidal has a good performance against Gilbert, is that someone you'd want to fight? And I think, as you said, given the history and, there's a lot of a backstory with those two as well. And I think Leon even said that he wants to get that one back anyway. I think, But the narrative sells the fight, right? So the Bisping-Henderson thing was because Hendo made a logo out of knocking Bisping out. Yeah.
And so obviously Bisping's walked around with that and he wanted to get that one back. That's normal. And that was allowed and that was granted. But it seems like just because, Leon's just had 2 of the best performances. The head kick knockout was like a 2-minute best performance you've ever seen because he reacted to what his corner said. And his last fight was incredible. You can take away whatever you want. You can say that Usman was injured or he didn't train or he was not over the knockout or whatever, but Leon still looks solid.
Yeah.
He still look, and it feels to me like sometimes it'd be nice if you had a bit of input because then you get behind what you're doing. I'm not saying that Leon has to choose like a no name because he wants to keep his belt, because that's not going to happen. But at the same time, it just seemed that it was very adamant. And I didn't know if it was something to do with the Covington and Masvidal.
What, they're like...
court battle.
Yeah. I don't know. I have no idea in regards to that. But I'm just looking at the rankings, and I would be more annoyed if I was for the likes of like Bilal and Gilbert and, well, not Gilbert, but like, Wonder Boy and, Hamzat even. Hamzat's ranked number 3 in that division now.
Yeah.
If you're going on current form, he's beat Gilbert. Really, if anything, it should be Colby Hamzat fight for the next title shot.
That's not a bad shout though.
But I can't really warrant a Masvidal title shot straight away. No, not unless he beats Gilbert Burns convincingly.
Well, surely if Leon's just won, then he's not going to fight for a few months, right?
No, I don't think. But there's talks of another London card in July. I don't think it would be on that, but
July.
Yeah, that's not too far away, is it? Now it's March, isn't it?
I don't think Leon's
It's April next week.
The thing is, when you're a champ, you don't want to spunk that time away. You don't want to be like just running straight back into the cage. I'm not saying that you bask in it and you just sit and you obviously just take all the glory from it. But he's still training hard. But obviously he wants to be able to pick who he's doing, I would have thought, or he'd have a say. Whereas what you've just said about Hamzat against Colby would be gold. Because, I don't know, I struggle when it comes to Colby because it seems like the character has got so much aggro. Like he stumbles over what he's saying sometimes if it's not scripted. Does that make sense? And because it's such a like fake thing that he's doing, it seems like it's kind of difficult for him to keep up. I wish sometimes that he was just himself so that I could understand exactly where he's coming from. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I don't particularly like... I'm not that excited between a Leon Edwards and Colby fight anyway, to be honest. I think Leon's got everyone's number besides Hamzat, maybe. But then again, I don't know.
Hamzat looked human when it came to Gilbert Burns.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that he looked bad, but he looked like, well, he can go to a decision.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, Leon surprised everyone this weekend, and he came out and he looks solid. So it's difficult. Who would you like to? If you could just choose, who do you want to see him fight? Out of the whole roster, who would you want to see Leon fight next?
For build-up, history, and excitement, I'd probably want to see him face Masvidal.
There you go.
But I can't really say, like I said, unless he performs really well against Gilbert Burns, looks convincingly, better. I think he's definitely got an argument for a title shot, but until that I can't really say.
Be interesting, won't it?
Yeah.
Did you hear what Joe Rogan said the other day about Masvidal? Masvidal in his prime beat GSP in his prime.
Really?
Yeah. And that makes me think that Joe may have a bit of concussion.
Nah, they're like buddies though, aren't they? So he probably says that.
I mean, look, Masvidal's an OG. He's been around forever. He's a solid dude, and he's a great fighter. But GSP, it's like comparing Rocky to Ivan Drago. Do you know what I mean? GSP was almost built in a lab compared to Masvidal, who was sort of raised on the streets. It's a big difference.
It's hard for me to. I mean, I've obviously watched GSP and like guys alike, and I always think you can't. I think there's generations now, and you can't really compare the old to the new. Like, if you put majority of the champions in there with GSP now, like I think maybe Leon Edwards could probably beat GSP. I just think because the game's changed, the sport's changed, everyone's a bit more well-rounded now. Like, obviously GSP was great, but, if Leon Edwards showed that kind of takedown defense against Kamaru Usman, who's essentially one of the best wrestlers ever in the welterweight division, what's to say he couldn't do that against GSP? And he'd have much more an advantage in the striking.
See, I think without seeing it, it's difficult to say because obviously GSP's striking was next level and his wrestling, and he wasn't traditionally a wrestler.
Yeah,
he was a dominating.
It's like when you get it in every sport, but like football, for instance, people compare like Maradona to Messi or whatever, and it's just like there's two different generations. Like the game's changed, it works at a faster rate now. Like people are in better shape. Past. And there's more knowledge about the sport. There's it's just played differently now, and I just think it's sometimes hard. I think they were great for that generation for sure, and they were the greatest ever in that generation. But I think it's hard sometimes to be like compare with the modern day champions. It's
a bit like when Royce Gracie came back and fought Matt Hughes, and obviously Royce Gracie. The big thing about UFC 1, 2, 3 were no one knew jiu-jitsu. No one really knew it. No one expected it to come out. I mean, Art Jimmerson came out with one boxing glove, and it was like, "What are you doing, dude?" But no one knew what was going on. And obviously, Royce submitted everyone, which was incredible. But I think it was UFC 60 where Royce came into the cage, or just before us, the promo to say, "This is my house. I'm coming back." And Matt Hughes was like, "Well, okay," and obviously Matt nullified his jiu-jitsu and beat the shit out of him. And it was like you say, back in the day, Royce was massive. There was a statue. He was on a pedestal because he was the man. And obviously he changed and sort of developed the sport at the beginning. Whereas it was only UFC 60 by the time all of that was, that's not going to work anymore, my dude. And it's like when you got the Tito Ortiz and the Randy Couture like ground and pound, and then that sort of got morphed into everyone using their wrestling in reverse, and then that morphed into John Jones oblique kicks, and then that morphed into, do you know what I mean, this movement and different stuff that Conor was doing. So you're right, you are dead right that everything's changing. It just seemed strange when I heard it. I was like, an in prime, because it's difficult, because when people say, well, an in prime Mike Tyson had beat an in prime anyone, like the
Tyson Fury.
Tyson Fury, So it's just different, isn't it? But it just sounded like a weird statement to make. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I was like, come on, man. GSP was above and beyond. He was unstoppable.
I think it's a strange comment to make when Masvidal's never really been classed as one of the greatest. You know what I mean? It's like, I can understand an argument for certain fighters like a Leon or like a Kamaru Usman. They've been at the top. They've been put in that bracket of fighters as like ones that will go down in history. But I mean, they all will, but them particularly. And it's a weird comment to make when Masvidal's never really been put on that same pedestal as GSP.
And especially for saying, I mean, because Masvidal has been around forever, and I mean forever, He's like, I can remember doing the podcast with Ross Edgley when it was UFC London, Darren Till against Masvidal. And he couldn't believe that Till was facing Masvidal. He was like, who is this guy? Like, why is he going to fight him? I said, dude, he's a legit dude. Like, he's an honorary Diaz brother, essentially. He's a fucking solid fight. Not sure. And I was like, no, you're obviously not understanding what you're watching, because the fact that, I mean, he was about Strike Force. You name any event, like back garden brawls, you name it, he was fighting in it. And he just kept doing the circuit. And obviously when he sort of exploded onto the scene when we were in Vegas, obviously after he did Till, he then did Ben Askren.
Yeah.
Then he's got the Diaz fight for the BMF. They're all slightly older dudes. And obviously when he starts coming up against...
I think that's the thing. There's certain fighters like Diaz, you know, those kind of ones that were never champion. They were always sick and they always like gave you really good fights, and they just kind of created their own, you know, what's the word? Their own bracket within in the sport. Like they're known as, you know, the kind of
gatekeepers.
I wouldn't say gatekeeper. I just mean like they're kind of cult heroes.
Yeah.
Where, like, you know, the Diaz brothers, Masvidal, and then give me a couple more.
Oh,
like, you know, the ones that are never like, they're never like been champion, but they've always been there or thereabouts.
Yeah, like Cowboy.
Yeah, and I mean, and guys like Gaethje, I think.
Yeah.
You know, he's been an interim champion, but you know, there's just certain fighters that...
It's a solid pick. You know it's going to be a good night when they fight.
They just got a different kind of following, they'll go down in history for other reasons.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
It just surprised me more than anything. And like you say, I don't know if it's just Joe because he's cooked and he's got him on his podcast. He's going to say nice things. But
maybe.
It did seem a bit strange.
Yeah.
But what did you think about this weekend's Sandhagen against Vera?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's kind of going under the radar a bit. It originally got scheduled before 286, I think.
Yeah.
And it got pushed back because I think basically it was going to be held at the Apex, but because of the attraction and the hype behind the fight, I think they wanted to have a crowded event.
Do you know who's not looking forward to it? Do you know who's hated everything about it?
Let me guess. Is it fighter?
Yeah.
Is it in the bantamweight division?
Quite possibly. It's Dominick Cruz.
Oh, right.
Dominick Cruz hates this fight because
Why?
The whole build-up is him getting knocked out. Literally him doing his signature footwork and just Vera catching the most beautiful head kick.
Yeah. It's not as bad as Frankie Edgar, though. He got knocked out by both of them.
Yeah, Frankie Edgar don't care anymore. He's not watching any
of
this.
I know. Yeah, Dominick Cruz. Oh, gee. I was watching Marlon's highlights last night, and he's savage. Like, this is a tough one to call, to be honest, because I love them both for different reasons. And I think Cory's great just because he's like so unorthodox and he's so unpredictable, but he's just kind of created his own style. And then Marlon is just like a savage,
bread and butter savage,
like the kind of John Jones nastiness.
Yeah,
you know, where like their intention is to actually hurt you.
That's when he did O'Malley. And then the thing is, you don't fuck around with someone like Cheeto. Nah. He's a fucking legit gangster, right?
Yeah.
In and out the cage. So you know when he's like, well, I haven't really lost, you think, dude, walk away, man. Like you don't need this smoke.
Yeah, sorry.
Is the sun?
I didn't see the little red dot. I couldn't see. The sun,
I'm blue-green colourblind, so if it's red, I can't see shit, dude. Well, I don't even know what colour hat I'm wearing. But like honestly, he's just a savage dude. And like you say, it's that unassuming, I'm going to fucking hurt you one way or another. And because obviously Dominick Cruz, he's kind of got that, he's got the backing of the organisation. Do you know what I mean? Vera's not, he spoke out before and he doesn't always feel like he's always been treated the best. But when you get someone like Cruz and then you put him to sleep, you can start shouting for whatever you want.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's kind of sad with Dom because obviously he's got all the skill in the world, but he's just not got the knees. Do you know what I mean? And they're just worn out. Like he's struggled so much with surgeries and stuff, and that one I think really affected him. So I know for someone like Dom, who in my opinion seems quite an insecure dude, to see that over and over and over again must be.
Yeah,
I can't imagine he's going to watch it. Unless, do you reckon he's calling it? Do you reckon he's on the comms?
Who, Dom?
Yeah.
Nah, I doubt it. I don't know who's... Excuse me. Yeah, I don't know who's on the comms this weekend.
Well, normally it's him. If it's him and Bisping. And I can imagine... Like,
It's in San Antonio, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Bisping was over here. Do you reckon Bisping stuck around for a bit, or do you reckon he's gone back?
I could see maybe Felder, Dom, and Brendan.
Yeah, okay. So Dom could be doing it. Obviously,
Yeah.
DC was over here at the weekend, and so was Anik and Bisping.
Yeah.
Well, it's an interesting one. But, I mean, for me, yeah.
It's going to have like a resting bitch face, the whole commentary.
And the thing is, if Bisping is there, you know he's going to fucking poke the bear, and it's going to be gold, because all they seem to do is argue. They seem to, if you've ever watched a Bisping and a Cruz card, it's like having kids in the back of the car on a road trip, right? You set out, everyone's excited, everyone's looking forward to it, and you let them get away with a bit more shit than normal. And then before you know it, you have to turn around and crack one of them, or like you have to give them a real stern and a throw your Game Boy out the window sort of fucking talk. And it's like halfway through the card, Bisping and Cruz are at each other full tilt, and then it's like one of them gets a bit of comms, and you hear Bisping go, that's a good point, Tom. And you think, you've been told, you've been fucking told, haven't you? And Mum's come on the fucking microphone and said, "Will you two pack up?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I quite like that. I mean, it's better than some of the comms. But
Yeah. No, it should be good. I mean, like I said, this fight it's quite hard to call. I think if I was gonna pick, I'd probably say Marlon.
Do you think?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The thing is, oh God, it's going to be such a good fight.
I mean, Sandhagen's been so unfortunate with these two real razor close fucking fights.
Yeah, so who was it? Was it Peter Yan?
So Yan and Dillashaw.
Yeah.
Which I think he won the Dillashaw one. I don't think the decision when obviously it didn't go his way, but I thought that he'd done better than what he had.
Yeah. It's that thing though, isn't it? It's like, well, Dillashaw came out of that fight looking more damaged.
Yes.
And I think that was a big, like, you know, based off that, everyone kind of thought it would sway towards Cory's. But I don't know. It's so hard when the fight's at such a high pace as well.
What do you reckon? Do you reckon Cheeto's going to keep up the pace? Obviously, he is a fast fighter.
I think it's hard because Cory's got such an unorthodox style. I think it's going to be hard for Marlon to kind of figure that out for the first like couple of rounds, maybe.
But look what as soon as he did with Cruz, look what he did.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, no one's caught Cruz like that.
Nah.
Like literally on one of his stutter steps, he just.
And I think in the fashion, I mean, Cory's been finishing his fights as well. I just think in the fashion that Marlon's been finishing his fights, and like just he's got a lot of momentum at the moment.
Yeah,
that's just how I feel like watching him perform.
I don't think you can ever count him out. That's the thing.
No, and you know he's got a win over Sean O'Malley. I know that isn't like, you know, there was reasons to why he won maybe, and it obviously due to the injury on O'Malley's part. But yeah, I don't know. It's just the fashion that he's been finishing his fights, I think.
Yeah.
And you know, Cory is coming off 2 losses. Yeah, I think I would pick Marlon.
Okay, so quick picks then. Let's go back to the card.
Okay, yeah.
Quick picks. You can go head and heart, right?
All right, yeah, you go on.
So the main is a coin toss, in my opinion, because they've both had really high profile fights. They've had massively high profile finishes. And I mean, yeah, Cruz is probably on his way out. So that head kick was incredible, but is it because Cruz is slower? At the same time, Sandhagen with Edgar, that's slightly older, right? So he's on his way out. So not taking anything away from it, but you've got the unorthodox movement of Sandhagen, which Vera's trained for Cruz and all the rest of it. So I think it's going to be super close. But like you say, the momentum with Vera, and I can never count him out. Oh, and with how unlucky Sandhagen is on decisions, I think if it goes any way, it probably goes Vera's way.
Yeah. I think that as well. I think if it does go the distance, I think Vera would just edge it, because I think he's going to get better as the fight goes on.
Yeah.
And I think he's a bit more similar to like Peter Yan in that way as well. It's like kind of probably fit. I think it'll benefit Marlon more that it's a 5-round fight than it would Cory.
Yeah.
So I think if it's going to go the distance, I think Marlon would edge it. And I think that's probably how it's going to go, to be honest. I think Marlon's going to get a decision.
Yeah, I don't think either of them are going to finish each other.
No.
Okay, so...
But man, what a fight. It's going to be such a good fight.
It's a proper banger, isn't it?
Yeah, proper.
So is... I can't wait for Nate Landwehr. He's honestly, man, such an insane dude. I'm super pumped for that one. But before we do that, so even if we do 5, just the top 5, right?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I was going to mention... Well, do you want to start from Holly Holm?
Yeah, go to Holly versus...
Holly versus Yana Santos. They've both got the exact same record as well.
One of them's got the championship rounds.
Yeah. I think I'm going to go Holly Holm.
Yeah, she's been up and down in the last few, hasn't she?
Let's have a look.
You have a look. But you got to look at who she's fighting.
Yeah. I mean, she's good. So she came off 2 decisions, one against Pennington and one against Aldana, and then lost to Ketlin Vera.
So is her heart still in it?
Decision.
I mean, what is she? She's my age. She's a bit younger than me.
She is 41 now.
She's my age, yeah. Exactly my age. If I'd been a champ 5 years ago, you could fuck that. I'm walking away.
I mean, Yana Santos is obviously kind of a bit more of a rising contender.
This is where the danger comes in.
She's also coming off. So she lost her last fight was a loss to Irina Aldana, which Holly Holm beat by decision. But Santos has got a win over Ketlin Vieira.
That makes it interesting, doesn't it? Well done, matchmakers, you tricky fuckers.
So
there's no Joe Silvers about.
But I think just experience and I think through experience, Holly Holm is going to win.
Okay, well, I'll go Yana then.
Okay.
So we'll take that. Next.
So Nate Landwehr and Austin Lingo.
Dude, I can't get enough of Nate Landwehr, man. He's been so good. And he's super... I was about to say, he's so intense.
Yeah.
There he is, being super intense.
You know, he reminds me of a little bit like Randy Couture, do you not think?
If Randy Couture and Steve-O had a baby.
Yeah.
Dude.
Like, he's got very Randy Couture kind of face there, do you not think?
Yeah, if he had a little bit less hair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Randy was never blessed with a lot of rug.
Yeah, a featherweight Randy.
Yeah.
Okay, so Nate Landwehr is coming off 2 wins, one over Ludovic Klein and one against David Onomar.
Okay. One of them was a sub and one of them was decision.
Yeah. So
I'm just not fussed. Whatever he's done, I just kind of...
it's going to be a good fight regardless.
Yeah. So I'm taking Nate all day.
Austin Lingo is currently 9-1, and he's also coming off 2... Lost his debut in the UFC against Youssef Salau, and then he's coming off 2 wins. Jakob Kilburn. I don't know why I said that. I said Jakob. It's probably Jacob. And
it's
Lewis,
the Polish influence, isn't it?
Yeah. Lewis Saldana. So yeah, 2 good wins. That'd be a good fight. Who are you picking?
Nate all day.
Okay.
And that's nothing against Austin. I'm just a massive fan of Nate.
All right, I'm going to pick Austin Lights Out Lingo.
Of course you are.
That's a cool name.
Lights Out. Good name. Okay, who else? So what's that? 1, 2, 3. Oh, Andrea Lee against Macy Barber. Dude, this is going to be good.
Okay, I'm going to pick... Should we have a look at their...
Yeah, have a little look.
I think Macy Barber's, I think,
wins?
coming off... Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
Macy
Jessica
Barber's...
Eye.
Yeah. So she's coming off 3 wins: Miranda Maverick, Montella De La Rosa, and Jessica Eye.
And she's only lost to Grasso, who's the current champ.
Yeah.
And Roxanne Modafferi, who's a tricky customer.
Yeah. No, she's had a good run in the UFC, I think, and she's still young. She's only 24 still.
Apparently she's the future.
Man, so many names. So that's Ian Gary, Sam Patterson. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Sam Patterson. That was pretty scary, do you not think?
Yeah.
That was like...
Stop the fight, scary.
Yeah.
We'll just
Because
let him punch him 5 more times.
Yeah, but...
or stop it.
The thing is, when Sam Patterson got up, I'd say for at least a minute he thought he was still fighting.
Or when he's got him in the necktie.
Yeah, and he was, and then people were still like, "No, it stopped." He was still going for it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't
Even
know
his
what
coach, 'cause
kind of.
David Lee was his coach.
Yeah,
And he was like, dude. And I think it was Mark that was like...
that was scary. That was like, because I was watching it here and I was just like, man, that's like serious, brain trauma.
Yeah. Because so it probably should have been stopped a little bit sooner.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
It was. I think the thing is sometimes because he got knocked out and he got hit again as he was falling. So if you're already partially out,
Yeah.
and then on your way down you get knocked out fully, and then when you land you're in some kind of I don't know. It's like a weird
Purgatory.
yeah, like what is it? Like a reflex reaction kind
Yeah,
of thing.
muscle memory.
Yeah, but just the way he reacted after the fight, I was very concerned for him.
I was worried for him, man. Because the thing is, it's easy to criticise. It's easy to criticise anything, but it's definitely something that. The trouble is, when you're looking at something like that affects someone long term. It's a difficult one because the problem is it's also on the main stage. It's not like he collapsed in the back or he had a rough night's sleep or he struggled. He was physically not himself.
No.
Within seconds after the fight, and that's kind of what puts the spotlight on it. Like, could more have been done? I don't know. I mean, obviously Mark's in there. He's a good ref, so it's difficult to call, but it's still it's not easy to see.
I mean, fair play to Ashmoyes.
Wow.
Is it? Got power.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, this is what I was saying last week. It was one of them where because he's kind of unknown, he's making his debut. I struggled to find stats.
Yeah.
Let alone a lot of stuff on him. And obviously if Patterson couldn't find that, then that's where you're dicing with trouble because... dicing with danger because you can't necessarily prepare as well as what you should be able to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, but another future.
Yeah. I mean, he probably saw the future by the looks.
If you'd have seen a future, you weren't getting in that fucking cage, man. If you'd have seen anything.
Jesus Christ, yeah.
So go to...
Yeah, sorry. So maybe Macy Barber, she's coming off 3 good wins, looking good, obviously. And she's fighting Andrea Lee, who we know.
I just like her cowboy hat, I've got to be honest.
Jesus, she's ripped, isn't she?
Shredded, mate.
In a
Shredded.
Soviet Union bikini.
Of course, standard.
Okay, so she's coming off a loss against Vivian Araujo, who's obviously looking really good. Cynthia Calvillo, she beat.
Well, her last 6, she's dropped 4.
Yeah, but she's been around in the UFC for quite a while now.
Yeah, I mean she's a solid fighter.
Well,
I've always liked watching her.
2018,
Yeah, I've always liked watching her.
Yeah, I think
I'm going Macy.
All right, well, if you go Macy, I'm going to go Andrea then. Yeah.
If you want to pick on that, because I had the Nate. If you want to go Macy, I'll go Andrea. It's not a problem.
No, it's fine. We'll keep it interesting. It's fine.
And so the last one, just the top 5.
Right, so this is
the
fight.
Enji Kwani. I'll take him anyway because I used to like his brother.
Okay, yeah. I'll go Duraev.
Okay, so the last one we're going to check is Alex Perez.
Yeah, so this is the fight I'm probably, after the main event, looking forward to the most.
Okay.
Because it's a flyweight fight. Manel Caps, just throws crazy shit, and Alex Perez is just like a little pocket dynamite.
Pocket dynamite,
Yeah,
similar
I
to a
don't
pocket
really know.
dynamite.
That
Like a
whatever
little
those
Tasmanian
things are.
devil.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Whatever those crazy things are that bounce around.
Bouncy ball. Man, his record's jacked, isn't it? How many cancelled
Jesus.
bouts has he had? Match now, Ascar, match now, match now, match now.
Yeah, I think this is going to be really, really fast-paced, really exciting fight. And yeah, he's had a bit of a rough time of it, Perez. I mean, obviously, he's not actually fought since last year. So July last year, he thought he lost against Pantoja.
Okay.
And before that, it was the title fight against Davison as well, and he lost guillotine choke. So he's not really had the best, and that was in 2020 as well. So that was, in the past almost 3 years, he's only had 2 fights and he's lost them both.
It's interesting though, because what could he have done in those 3 years? Has he taken those losses as a learn, or has he taken those losses as
look how many cancelled bouts he's had. I'm not sure if this is
UFC cancelling it or him?
Yeah, I mean, I understand maybe it's injuries on both sides, but he's had match now cancelled many times.
Mate, he even had Sergio Pettis, Kai Kara France, Moreno. I've never seen so many cancelled bouts in someone's record like that. But interesting to see. So
I still think he's, very high class. He's still one of the top guys in the division for sure.
It seems if you start fast on him though, just go to Manel Cap.
Manel Cap, I think, is coming off a couple of wins.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, Manel Cap was really highly rated when he came into the UFC, and he lost his debut. Yeah, he had Pantoja on his debut.
Which is,
it's
vicious.
Yeah. Talk about hard debut or what.
But it's still a decision. So he's lost 2 decisions, but then if you look here,
I remember the flying knee against O'Day Osborne. That was savage.
Yeah.
And then Zumagulov is obviously like all these guys are just like super fast, super like twitchy, and Zalgas has got massive output, and he put up a good, got a good win against him. And then David Dvorak.
So who are you taking? Who are you choosing?
I'm gonna pick Manel Cap. I'm a big fan of Manel Cap.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll choose Perez then.
All right, cool.
So we can go opposites.
Yep.
Mate, it's going to be an interesting card. It's not like it's not like we go from UFC London to like a little bit of a dip.
It's a really good card, I think, and I'll be watching.
I'm here for it, man. I'm excited about it.
I also wanted to give, obviously, PFL was Europe this weekend as well. Their first European League event in the UK. It's in Newcastle this weekend. Looking forward to that. Obviously,
Dan's already out there.
Yeah, Dan's already there. He's been there all week for fight week. I was hoping to go down, but COVID kind of halted me for a few days. So.
Carbosh your plans, didn't it, dude?
Yeah, but I'm going to be going down there tomorrow, and I'll be at the event on Saturday. So keep an eye out on the channel for some
PFL business.
Yeah, PFL content, some post-fight interviews and stuff. So, stay tuned for all that. But it's a good card. I mean, PFL have obviously started, getting Dan involved in the European League, and there's going to be 4 events, I think, this year. This is the first one.
Yeah.
And it's a good card. Like the two headliners, Simeon Powell against Mohamed Amin. Simeon Powell's like a really good up-and-coming light heavyweight.
Undefeated.
Yeah, 7-0. Really good prospect. And, the co-mains, Dakota DeShaver against
Malin
Hermansson.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't know if there's any relation, but Jack.
Is a nickname the Joker, eh?
The Joker. Like Harley Quinn or something.
That would be sick.
Yeah.
That would be sick. Mind you, that'd be kind of sick because it's brother and sister. You couldn't do that.
Not?
Well, if they were brother and sister,
right.
you said is there any relation?
Yeah.
I don't think they're married. If they're married all day, Harley Quinn, but...
Yeah. So, no, distant cousins.
Malin, the Batman, Hermansson.
But no, Dakota DeShaver is like really, really like hot prospect in the coming out of the UK. Her brother's a kickboxer. Mum's like world champion kickboxer.
Nice.
Like it's like inbred in the family.
It's good.
And she's been looking great. I think her first 2 PFL fights, she's finished them both in the first round.
Nice. I've seen a lot of the promos on social that she seems super relaxed, very confident.
Yeah.
Very like kind of at peace. She was looking at her shorts the other day and just sent just she was just shopping, having a little look. Like, yeah, these are cool.
Yeah, I mean, because I was at the last, not her last fight, the fight before was her first PFL fight, and that was the Brendan Loughnane and Chris Wade fight.
Dude.
And that was the playoff to get to the championship.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was a great event. The PFL, the events are like really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I've only been to one, but yeah, it was amazing. And Kayla Harrison was on that card as well.
I think just having something slightly different. Obviously, Bellator's not the UFC, but it's trying quite a bit to be the UFC. Don't get me wrong, I've got nothing against Bellator. I like it. There's a lot of ex-UFC fighters in there, so it's easy to sort of follow it along. PFL seems slightly different. They seem to be doing things slightly different and just edging out, just trying new things. And since obviously Dan's been involved, that I've been, obviously you start signing up to all the socials and you start looking at it, and it seems like the fighters are paramount, it feels. Mm-hmm. And it's the same as I saw a clip of Dan trying on the gloves, and they're slightly more curved to avoid the eye poke. Obviously you can't get rid of it altogether because your gloves would be wrong for grappling, but they seem to be listening, and it seems to be run by the right type of people, like people who've either experienced not the best treatment in the industry, so that they know how to get the new one moving forward even better.
Yeah.
So it's exciting to see, man, and especially like you were saying, obviously with Dan being signed up with them now, we seem to be privy to a bit more information, which is quite cool.
Yeah, well, I think it's like they seem to be getting the right people involved in the roles that they should be in, like, you know.
Yeah.
And by kind of bringing those people in, I mean, like, it's ran by Ray Sefo as well, right?
Dude,
so
legend, true legend.
I feel like, you know, he's got a good understanding of the business, not just as a businessman or an agent or a promoter, but also as a fighter. So, you know, you could almost expect he knows how fighters should be treated and how they should be.
Yeah,
you know,
he's a fighter first and foremost.
Yeah,
and I've never really seen him with he's never had like a massive ego.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas some promoters just seem to have, they've just got a massive chip on their shoulder. And it's an interesting one. Like, it seems like sometimes you can get it wrong. And it's all right to get it wrong. But if you admit you got it wrong, then it makes a big difference. But if you kind of like bully your way through, it doesn't feel like it works fair. Does that make sense? Whereas Ray Sefo has always sounded like I mean, I met him in Knots and he was such a down-to-earth, regular dude. Rock solid. He would take your fucking head off. I mean, he was a solid fighter. But it just fills me with a bit more comfort knowing that they are doing it for all the right reasons.
Yeah, and I think obviously Dan's now the head of kind of the Europe side of things. So, you know, it's an exciting time for him, I think, and I think they're going to do big things like in Europe and in the sport and just throughout. And looking forward to this event. There's a couple other guys on the lower down, like British guys. So Lewis Monarch and Oscar Owensworth are going to be kicking the card off, 2 British guys. And then the next 2 fights after that, Lewis Lee Scott and Sam Robinson.
Okay.
And then one that we need to look out for as well is Lewis McGrillen. He's fighting out Manchester top team. He's been looking really good, like up and coming. And this is his first fight in PFL as well. So he's fighting Sally Kulkin.
So where can we watch this? Is it only on DAZN?
So it's on DAZN, I think. I'm pretty sure that's where you're going to be able to watch it. Unless you go to the Virtue Motors Arena in Newcastle, get a ticket. But
and if you get one, go and see Slim.
yeah.
Go and tap it on. You can all be.
Yeah, I'll be in the media room at the back, I think.
I'll be there somewhere.
Yeah, I'll be around, but yeah, it should be a good card. Really looking forward to it. Really looking forward to start working with them as well, and just PFL content on the Full Reptile channel as well. Hopefully, coming soon, and should be good, man.
Yeah, start covering a bit more, eh?
Yeah.
I think it's always cool when you've got more things to talk about, more people, more arenas to look at. Do you know what I mean? Like back in the day, there was Strikeforce, Pride, WEC, UFC.
Yeah.
There was so many. Whereas now, you've got UFC and it kind of trickles down into Bellator. Mm-hmm. And occasionally they move across. And I know there's one now and there's PFL, but it just feels like there's a little bit more new blood.
Yeah,
and it's kind of cool, man. I like it.
Well, I think obviously the PFL have kind of brought in a few of the UFC stars as well. Like Brendan Loughnane's fighting Marlon Moraes on April the 1st. I think Shane Burgos, Thiago Santos are making their day. I don't know if it's debut. Debuts. And they are bringing in some like UFC fighters or ex-UFC fighters. And there's obviously rumours that Ngannou might be eventually joining on too. I don't know. And he mentioned that it might be between like One and PFL. Yeah. So I don't know. It'd be interesting to see him in either promotions, to be fair, but I hope he comes to the PFL.
I do. But do you think before John Jones had his debut and destroyed Cyril Gane, do you think that Ngannou's stock was higher then, or it's higher now and he's got more bargaining chips to be able to get a better deal? Or do you think he's waiting?
Before what? Before John Jones came back, sorry?
Yeah, so when he was the baddest man on the planet and he was ranked number 1 in the UFC and he was the heavyweight champion and he was winning and looking like a killer. When he had the contract negotiations, do you think he was in a better position when he'd just come off a win, looked good and had the chance to talk about obviously fighting John Jones or doing whatever? Or do you think he's, by leaving it as long as he has, it could be a negative thing? So just as an example, Rashad waited, and he waited for John Jones years ago, and he waited and he kind of waited too long, and he lost a lot of his momentum. And I know this is a contract negotiation; it's a bit different, but a couple of months ago, Ngannou was at the forefront of our mind, and we're talking about it quite a bit. Have you thought about Ngannou recently? Is it something?
No, it's interesting because there's an expiry date on everything, isn't there? And I think when he left the UFC, it was such a big talking point because obviously, he's the heavyweight champion of the world and, he's leaving the UFC, and this was obviously before John Jones came back. And and I think it would have been, I think the thing is, he's left at a point where that John Jones fight just seems like it's never going to happen now. So you can never really say that John Jones would have beat him or whatever, I guess.
It's in the never.
Yeah. So it kind of still, there's still always the interest within that. But I think he needs to hurry up and do something quite soon. Otherwise, people are going to lose interest. Yeah. And I think whether that's boxing, which it does seem like he's going to kind of go into boxing first. And I know the Deontay Wilder thing seems to be happening or whatever. But I think if he does that, then it's going to, obviously spark the interest again. But then I think, with his age as well, he's not the youngest in terms of being an athlete and being involved in sport, especially at the highest level anyway. So I think if whatever he's going to do, he needs to do something quick. And then, however that turns out, I think maybe joining on with the PFL or One Championship after that, I think it is a good move. Because I think if he, has a boxing match, win or lose, he's not really got, I don't think if he goes into boxing, he's not really got anything to lose, to be honest.
Cause massive to gain.
Yeah, he's only, and he can always fall back onto MMA afterwards and join promotions like One Championship, PFL. I don't think his stock would go down that much if he went into boxing and lost. Yeah.
It was more interesting. I just wanted to get your take on it because I thought about it while I was driving over. Because for whatever reason, I was thinking about he was talking about Usman losing and saying that he knew he hadn't trained. And then it just popped him into my brain to think, is he leaving it a bit long, or is it counterproductive now because of the amount of time it's been? And obviously your take's very similar to my take of yeah, it's like a few weeks ago we were talking about it all the time. Now it's like, well, John Jones is back. We've got a heavyweight champ. We're going to see him clear out a division. We're going to see him fight Stipe. What the fuck? This is exciting. Whereas, yeah, sometimes the patience is a virtue, and like holding out for the right time is good, but sometimes you miss the miss the boat. And obviously I don't want that to happen because I think Ngannou's a nice guy. So it's fascinating to see, and I'm excited to see if it is a boxing match, because like you say, boxing match keeps him relevant. He doesn't have to prove anything to anyone or anything. He can stand in there and he can have a go. There's no pressure really, I don't think, on his shoulders to represent MMA or anything, because if he connects with anyone, he's killing them. Whereas if he gets outboxed, he can move back to MMA. And someone that laughs at him in MMA, he can smash him in the cage. It's not a problem. But I just don't want him to wait too long and just like you say, there's that expiry date and it just feels like he's yesterday's chip paper.
Yeah, the thing is though, I think that whole idea of, I've watched interviews with Ngannou, and I think, he's in it to create a bigger thing out of it, with the money and, what he's doing to help other people. Yeah. Like back in his home country and stuff like that. Right, which is I think that's his, that's what he's in it for. And I think staying relevant and being the top, the most spoken about person in the world. I think even though he gets it, I don't think it's a massive importance in his life.
No, I don't think he wants it.
I think he wants to, because he spoke about building legacy, not just in the UFC. The UFC is not, he even said, that tweet he put out to Usman, it was like, we've already cemented ourselves in history, the three kings or whatever. Yeah. And like no one's ever going to take that away from you. So I think he's obviously wants to leave behind a legacy, but I think it's much more than just being like, the most spoken about person, or like, And
I don't mean that he needs to pull his trigger soon because he's losing clout, as in his own, he is doing it for all the right reasons, and he's treating people right, and he is trying to use what he's earning for good. And I don't want that to be a potential £10 million payday that it doesn't matter about his name or his fame, but he's got £10 million towards his cause. Yeah. Or it's a £2 million payday towards his cause, because it's vastly different. Yeah. And it's one of them where the longer he waits, is his price or his value that he gets out of it going down? Because like you say, his clout is one thing. Is he on the tip of your tongue, or is he in your mind when you're watching UFC London? Maybe not. If he was still in the UFC, he probably would have been there, and there would have been a little bit of something. So it's one of them where I don't want him to leave it too long, so that his perceived value has gone down. So that then instead of offering a signing bonus of X, we're like, what else are you going to do? You're going to do it for this. Yeah. I don't think he's daft. He's not a bad businessman. No. But I personally don't want him to miss out on something that he has earned his way up to, and is now taking his foot off the gas a bit. Yeah.
Well, I think there's so much interest in him, especially in the boxing world at the minute, But then there's talks that, Fury's going to be fighting Usyk next. For, I think they've kind of put a bit of a deadline on that for them both to say yes, we'll do it. And I think I think the best option for him would be the Deontay Wilder fight, just in terms of money, and there'll be a lot of attention around it, and Deontay Wilder's fucking massive as well. Yeah, I don't think people are really quite. I think in MMA, he's seen, obviously Ngannou's like the giant, he's massive, but then you like Tyson Fury is 6'9", he's got 5 inches on Ngannou, and Deontay Wilder's, I think he's 6'5" or 6'6", massive guys. I don't think
they're towering.
If you put them in the ring, I think he will look fairly average.
Exactly, and that's the scary thing. But once it's signed, once he knows what he's getting, he can get in there and do whatever, and he knows that he's always got MMA. It's like when Conor fought Mayweather. He lost nothing. No. He lost nothing, really. He had a go. He made bank. And he started off an insane fucking tirade of fucking fighting everyone else. But it's one of them, like you can see Mayweather fighting someone's nan at the weekend. Do you know what I mean? But other than that, there was no real damage out of it. So, well, no, I was just interested, man. I just didn't know what you thought about it. But
I think we'll see something come out of the shadows in like the next 6 months, or in the next like 2 or 3 months.
Hopefully,
I think they'll have something sorted for the end of the year, maybe. I think. Yeah,
I hope so.
Personally, I hope so. Anyway, I want to see him, do whatever and do good at it.
Yeah. Well, I'm
and then
definitely
come to the PFL.
Yeah, I'll definitely head over to PFL, and obviously we're looking forward to Brendan Loughnane defending his strap.
Yeah,
it's gonna be exciting.
Yeah, and obviously this weekend as well. PFL this weekend should be good. Check it out. It's on DAZN.
There's a lot of fights to watch, so enjoy it and get in the comments again. Don't forget, a lot of you didn't let us know your nicknames. I took some of the abusive message as a nickname, so that's how my mum told me how to deal with bullies. Just ignore them. But I needled it a bit. So yeah, get in touch. Let us know what you think, and if there's anything you need us to talk about, and obviously we can crack on. Massive thanks again to New Shirt. Don't forget to go and have a look, especially at their new Headshot, Public Enemy, collab, hybrid, parody. And obviously there's still the sale on full Reptile, so you've got a week because the shop will be closed from the 1st of April. So if any of you are listening to this and are going away from the 1st of April to the 15th, the shop's going to be closed. So next week, I'm going to be available. I will be shipping stuff. So get your orders in. There's plenty of sale stock. There's t-shirts on 10 quid. There's hoodies. There's all sorts on there. Jump on, have a look. If there's anything you need, hit me up, and I can get it out to you before the shop's closed for a couple of weeks. But other than that, that's everything, dude.
Yeah, man, that's it. Yeah.
It's been a pleasure.
Watching.
Take it easy, man.
Nice one, man. Take care.
I felt like a reptile. I felt like a reptile.